I dated 50 guys in 3 years, and not only did it break my soul, but I wrote an article about it for Medium. It's a really long article because it goes through each of the 50 guys, but I'm going to try and give you the TLDR. For a bit of backstory, when I started dating these guys, I had just come out of a year-long relationship with a really great guy who really cared about me.
Of course.
Um, but our values just did not align on many, many things. And I just knew we had no future. So, but my guard was down because I'd just been in a trusting relationship and I was not ready for what awaited me in the single world. So the first guy was someone I met in real life, and my friend was dating his friend. So they set us up, and he seemed amazing at first. He was like a hopeless romantic who
Right.
really wanted a relationship. And we had like 3 really nice months until he just turned cold as and turned out he was just a compulsive liar, emotionally unavailable, not over his ex, the mother of his child.
Guy number one, 3 months. You tell me the first guy already got the cheeks. I'm sorry, we're just adult conversation here. 3 months. You don't go 3 months without getting intimate. And you don't know how to pick men, right? Welcome to the Coffee Pod. My name is Chisha Zed.
But I was already attached to him by that point, so I found it really hard to cut him off. And we had this whole push and pull thing for like 9 months, and then eventually I cut him off for a year, and then stupidly went back, and the whole thing happened again. And all in all, it took me like 2.5, 3 years to get over this guy. So we didn't get off to the best start. The next guy was somebody that I met on Tinder, and we had a few nice dates until he ghosted me. There were massive red flags with him. He started trauma dumping on the first date, telling me about how his dad used to all sorts of bad things. He eventually ghosted me, so that was the end of that anyway. But he did pop up a few years later, and his life was still in chaos. Like his mum was recovering from cancer, his granddad was dying from cancer, and he told me that his ex and his best friend had just run off together. And he also told me that he was sleeping with his therapist because his therapist had tried to blackmail him. So yeah, this boy was just chaos, and that one was never going to go anywhere. Number 3 was a guy that I met on Tinder, and we went for a walk in the park. Bearing in mind, this was all in lockdown. So our humor just did not gel on the day, and it made the whole thing awkward. He was really nice looking, but again, he was just another one that started trauma dumping on the first day. Like he told me how he'd been hospitalized for alcoholism and how his sister had all these gambling issues and had like been stealing money from the family and all of this stuff.
Sounds like she's got a type that she attracts.
And after our date, he actually didn't speak to me for a few days. So when he eventually did pop up, I just used that as an excuse to be like, nah, we're not, I don't want to go out again. He actually popped up a whole year later as well and asked if I wanted to go out. And I just said I wasn't dating. The fourth guy, he was somebody that I met on Tinder, and I did a FaceTime date with him because I decided to start vetting these men before I actually met them. And I was glad I did with him because on the FaceTime, he told me that he doesn't have any friends. And when I was like, oh, well, who do you hang out with?
Hmm.
He went, oh, well, I just hang out with whatever girl I'm dating. So yeah, that was massive red flags. So when he asked to go on a date, I just politely declined. The
Right.
fifth guy was someone I met on Bumble, and I met him right as me and the first guy were ending for the first time. So I was like heartbroken and probably shouldn't have been dating, to be honest. But this guy was like a really nice person and had his life together, it seemed. And it was just the kind of person I knew I should be dating. So I decided to give it a go. The attraction wasn't really there because he was so nice. I was just hoping it would come. And the sexual attraction definitely was not there.
More proof to not be the nice guy. You hear she said it herself, right? Chisha, why are we taking advice from a 304? Because the broken clock is right at least twice a day. The attraction wasn't there. He was just too nice.
And he also was depressed, and he used to make jokes about a lot. And my mental health wasn't the best at the time. So I didn't think that was that good for me. I think we dated for about 3 months, and eventually we went on holiday. And soon as I went on that holiday, I knew I didn't want to be with him and I shouldn't have gone. And the whole thing was a massive mistake. And he also made some really dodgy comments about the whole Sarah Everard, Wayne Couzens case that put me off of him. So as soon as we got home, I ended things immediately on the grounds that we just didn't have a very good sexual connection, which he admitted was the case. And he turned around and was like, oh, we could just carry on sleeping together if you want.
There's a reason I keep pointing out that, you know, she let some of these dudes hit. And you find out as we keep listening.
And I was just like, you're not really getting it. But yeah, I feel bad for letting that one drag on as long as it did. But he was a nice guy, and I really just wanted to give it a chance. But it just was not meant to be. Sixth guy was somebody I met in real life. I met him at West Ham Football Stadium, and he came up and asked for my phone number. And he was good looking, so I gave it to him. But then he kept calling me every night. He was calling me every Friday night at like 2 a.m. Like, so clearly just trying to booty call me. Eventually we met up on a night that we were both out, and he was just a huge Coca-Cola head, and you could see he literally had Coca-Cola around the rings of his nostrils. So I actually ended up blocking him. We actually reconnected like 2 years later because we kept matching on the apps, and he was still a Coca-Cola head and only wanted to sleep with me. The seventh guy, I met him on Bumble. He had great banter, good looking, cute dog. So we used to walk his dog. We used to go to the same gym, so we'd go and use the spa together. We had like 3 really lovely, fun dates.
Is she going to go through all 50? I don't think I can do it. Would have to like speed up the video. If I do it, you probably want to speed this part up.
And then he literally started crying on my shoulder about his ex, and I realized that he wasn't over her. And I also realized that he was sleeping with loads of different women. So we became friends, and he admitted to me that he slept with over 1,000 women. Number 8, this was a guy I met on Tinder. I probably shouldn't have gone out with him because he was quite a bit younger than me, but we went on a really nice date. We went axe throwing. And then on the date, he told me that he was not looking for anything serious. So when he asked for another date and tried to kiss me, I just declined on both counts. Number 9 was a guy I matched with on Tinder. We had a little FaceTime. He was Australian. He was nice enough, but just you could tell neither of us were really feeling it, and we did not speak again. Number 10 was a guy I met on Bumble. He was another guy who seemed nice enough.
Right.
And we went on a date to the pub. And I thought he was a little bit rude because when we were chatting, he just kind of kept looking around the room. And I was like, oh, am I boring you?
She's obviously British. That's the accent I'm getting.
And when I pointed that out, he actually got really offended. Anyway, clearly neither of us were bothered because we did not go out again. Number 11 was a guy I met on Bumble, and it was probably one of the worst dates I've ever been on in my life. He wasn't even my type, but he was massively on my case about going for a date. So I gave him a chance. He asked me to meet him at the pub. Arsenal were playing, and he told me him and his brother were going to be watching it. And then once it was over, we'd go for food. So I go and meet him. He's at the table watching Arsenal on his phone. And when I get there, he barely looks up from his phone, just says hi, and then goes back to it. The brother was there and started asking me questions like, oh, where have you come from? What do you do? And the brother was like, oh, should I get you a drink? Brother goes off to get me a drink. And then I say to this guy, you're in a bit of a bad mood. Should I just go home? And he's like, no. Like, once this finishes and we get food, I'll be fine. Anyway, so the match finishes. We're getting ready to go. And the brother's just standing there awkwardly. And I felt really bad because I'd actually chatted to the brother more than the guy. And I didn't even want to go for dinner with this guy at this point. So I said to the brother, I was like, well, you can come if you want. And I ended up going on a date with this guy and his brother. As we were chatting over Thai food, it transpired that the guy that I was going on a date with was on day 3 of a bender. He'd gone out with work on the Thursday and got fucked. They'd had a new baby born in the family on Friday, and the pair of them had been drinking. And then Saturday morning, he'd started drinking early for the football. We split the meal 3 ways at my date's request. And then afterwards, he said, do you want to come for drinks with us?
You're right.
You can stay at mine tonight. And I said, no, thank you. He actually messaged me a whole year later just to say that I looked hot in my WhatsApp photo. And he did admit maybe bringing his brother on the date was not the best idea. Anyway, I'm running out of time now, so
yeah, let's just keep it going.
Let's do a part 2.
Oh hell no. So people responded back to her video. This commenter said, "I'm sure your soul is not the only thing that broke."
Drink the coffee; it'll make you feel better.
This is her response.
It's so funny to me that men cannot grasp the concept of going on a date with someone and not actually wanting to sleep with them at the end. So many men have seen that I dated 50 guys and they're just assuming that I slept with every single one. Just
not every single one, but probably a good chunk. A good chunk of them.
Because that's what men want to do. That does not mean women are the same.
You're not going to convince us that you didn't sleep with at least close to half of those 50 men. That's me being generous. And I understand women need more, right? For when it comes to women, they have more check boxes in order for them to actually be sexually attracted to a man. But a lot of these chicks, the way that they move, you would be surprised. Or maybe you wouldn't. This commenter says, how many cats do you have so far?
10 out of 10 for originality. No one has ever made this joke before. But also I'm allergic to cats, so I don't have any. So joke's on you.
Yeah, they started lighting her up in the comment section. It was just a bunch of these comments. This next commenter says, you needed to scan better. 1, are you a drinker or user? 2, do you hit or have been in trouble with the law? 3, do you have a job? I guess these are the questions that this commenter is saying she should have been asking the men.
People who blame women for dating rubbish men and say it's your fault because you need to vet them better or you need to scan them better by asking them these questions, were you aware that men can lie? And just because you ask a man a question does not mean you're going to get an honest answer from him. And if anything, the worse a man is, the more likely he is to lie and hide stuff.
I think all that proves is how terrible modern women are at picking men. I mean, they're really good at picking horrible men. Being able to look at somebody and judge and being able to separate the initial attraction to the actual values that person would have for a long-lasting relationship. This next commenter says, yeah, but you didn't stop talking to most of those first date trauma dumpers because they were narcissists, did you?
I've had a lot of comments like this where people blame me for entertaining these shit men, but it wasn't like I had an abundance of emotionally available, desirable men at my fingertips. Once you get to your mid-30s, the dating pool is pretty much full of emotionally unavailable men with issues who are...
And women. In fact, I would say more women.
...single for a reason, either because they don't want to settle down or they've got things stopping them settling down. Also, I think as women, we're predisposed to see the good in people. And most women I know are kind, caring and empathetic. And we don't come into things being like, oh, well, you're a narcissistic, abusive liar who's not over your ex, who's going to mess me around.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. We see it all the time.
We give men chances, probably too many chances. And then we only walk away when they start to hurt us or we realize it's someone that we really can't be with. And then also, when you've been single for a really long time, like I have, when you meet an attractive guy who's great company and you get on really well with and that you've got really good chemistry with, even when you know that they're a wrong un, it's hard to walk away from that sometimes because it's been a long time since you felt that way about somebody. Now I've done the healing and I've done the work and I've been celibate for 8 months. I am
Congratulations, 8 months. Wow. What an accomplishment.
Of cutting off red flags. Even just yesterday, a guy was talking about hating women on a dating app and I just cut him off immediately. And it means that you don't speak to anyone ever. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is sometimes you don't know if a flag is red, sometimes the flags look orange, and you have to give these men a chance in order to make sure.
But 50 men? 50 men? 50 men. This next commenter says, if you love someone, you make it work. Period. And this guy was talking about her first man, who she said was a good man, who she left to go date 50 toxic men.
And a lot of comments like this where people are like, oh, well, why did you break up with your ex if he was such a nice guy? And if you love someone, you make it work. First of all, we weren't in love. I loved him as a person, but we weren't in love with each other. And that was a big reason why I thought we shouldn't be together. Secondly, it doesn't matter how nice the person you're dating is. If your life values do not align, you don't have a future together. For example,
That's a good point.
He was a weed smoker and I'm not. Those are two wildly different lifestyle choices. And we clashed on that on many occasions. We did not have the same values when it came to money. I like to have money to do nice things, go on nice holidays. I want to live comfortably. He, despite being extremely intelligent and personable and the type of person that everybody loved, he could have worked any job, done any career and excelled at it, but he was happy to just work an easy job for a low salary, which meant he didn't have money left at the end of every month to do nice things. And also, I wanted to be a homeowner and live together and buy a house together. He had absolutely no interest in buying a house and was just happy to rent. So yeah, there are lots of reasons why people can't make it work. This guy says that all men are open to something serious if the woman is attractive enough. This is only an issue when the girls are dating up and the guys are dating down. So he thinks I wasn't attractive enough to date those guys, which is fair enough. But I've got about 20 instances where I can prove you wrong. I've been back on the dating apps for like 2 weeks now after an 8-month break, and I have seen 20 of the guys from the 50 guys list. And I haven't dated most of those now in at least 1, 2, 3 years. So are you telling me that out of all of those 20 men, not a single one of them has found a woman attractive enough for them to make her their girlfriend? Because what I think the reality of this situation is, there are just a lot of men on the dating apps that don't want to settle down, or they do want to settle down and they aren't capable because they've got emotional issues.
Okay, I'm not going to sit here and be too biased about what she's saying. There's some truth about men on dating apps. Most people on dating apps are there to get laid. That is just the truth. I think both men and women have emotional baggage due to this very, very, very traumatic dating market. But yeah, you're going to go on dating apps. You're going to find people who just want to sleep with you at the end of the day. That doesn't mean that you can't find a wife or a husband online. In fact, recent data talked about how that's one of the clear places people meet today. This is, you can't compare it to anything else. Meeting in person, work, most people are meeting online.
I think that's a more realistic way of looking at it.
This next comment reads, so you need to go into therapy so as to make better choices?
All right, on one hand, this comment is fair because I did ignore a lot of red flags and I spent way too much time being upset over a guy who didn't give a shit about me because I cared about him. But also it's victim blaming. Why should women be the ones to go to therapy and spend £60 a session to learn how to make better choices? It should be the men going to therapy and dealing with their issues so that they don't treat women like shit in the first place. Or,
both the men and women who believe that they need therapy can go to therapy. Anyways, that's it. Of course, I'm curious to know, what do you think? Leave your comments down below. I appreciate you as always for checking out yet another episode of The Coffee Pod. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.